The massive circular chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with unusual activity. On the giant holographic display at the center of the room, 12 small dots moved steadily through space. The dots represented ships, incredibly tiny ships by galactic standards, and their presence had turned what should have been a routine morning meeting into something far more interesting. "These vessels are smaller than our cargo shuttles," said Lord Commander Blake, his deep blue skin reflecting the light from the hologram. He stood at his designated platform, looking down at the display with obvious amusement. "Scan them again. There must be some mistake." The technical officer, a tall, thin alien named Turner, tapped several commands into his console. "No mistake, sir. 12 vessels, each approximately 300 meters in length. They appear to be made of basic metals and composites. Nothing exceptional in their construction." Laughter echoed through the chamber. Several council members didn't even bother to hide their smirks. "And they dared to enter council space." General Stone's voice boomed across the chamber. His massive frame, covered in natural armor plates, shifted forward as he spoke. "With toys." The council members continued their discussion, trading jokes about the small fleet. Some wondered if they were looking at escape pods rather than actual ships. Others suggested they might be dealing with children who had stolen their parents' training vessels. Only Admiral White remained silent, studying the hologram with intense focus. Something about the formation of the ships bothered him. They moved with too much precision, maintaining perfect distances between each other despite the gravitational influences of nearby stellar bodies. "We are receiving a transmission," Turner announced suddenly. The chamber fell quiet. A clear, confident voice filled the room. "This is Admiral James of the Earth's 7th Expeditionary Force. We come in peace and seek to establish diplomatic relations with the Galactic Council." The chamber erupted in fresh laughter. "Earth? Never heard of it," someone shouted from the upper levels. "7th Force." Another voice called out. "Where are the other 6? Admiral White raised his hand for silence. "Mr. Turner, what do our deep scans show about these vessels?" Turner frowned at his readings. "That's strange, sir. Our scans can't penetrate beyond their outer hulls. There seems to be some kind of interference." "Primitive shielding, no doubt." General Stone dismissed the concern with a wave of his massive hand. "Probably using mineral layers to deflect basic scans. The oldest trick in the book." The hologram zoomed in on one of the human ships. Its dark hull was smooth and featureless, without any visible weapons or defense systems. It looked almost too simple, like a child's drawing of a spaceship brought to life. "Look at their engines," Lord Commander Blake pointed out. "Basic plasma propulsion. They're practically using steam power." Admiral White stepped closer to the hologram. "Turner, run a radiation scan on their drive signatures." "Already did, sir. The readings are inconsistent. Sometimes they show full power, sometimes nothing at all. The sensors can't seem to get a clear reading." "How convenient," General Stone growled. "They can't even maintain stable power output." The human voice came through again. "We understand this is our first contact with your civilization. We come seeking peaceful trade relations and cultural exchange. We await your response." The council members exchanged glances. This was usually the point where new species were put in their place, shown that the Galactic Council demanded respect and submission before any talks could begin. General Stone took charge. "Send them our standard warning. Tell them to power down their vessels and prepare for boarding. We'll show these humans proper protocol." As the message was sent, Admiral White finally spoke up. "I suggest caution. Something about this isn't right." "Caution?" General Stone laughed. "Against 12 tiny ships with primitive technology. What could possibly?" "Sir." Turner's voice cut through the chamber, panic evident in his tone. "The ships, they're launching something." The hologram showed small objects departing from the human vessels. Hundreds of them. Thousands. "Probably escape pods," someone joked nervously. "They're running away already." But Admiral White saw the truth in the perfect precision of their movement, in the way they spread out in complex patterns that no random deployment could achieve. These humans had just revealed their first card, and the game was only beginning. The chamber fell silent as they realized this would not be the simple first contact situation they had expected. Not simple at all. Captain Reed limped into the council chamber, his metallic leg making a distinct sound against the polished floor. The old alien commander's arrival silenced the chaos that had erupted after the human ship's strange deployment. Everyone knew Reed, the decorated veteran who had explored more unknown space than any other council captain. "You fools," Reed said, his voice carrying across the chamber. "You're making a terrible mistake." General Stone turned to face him. "Captain Reed, you weren't summoned to this meeting." "No, I wasn't." Reed walked to the center of the chamber, his scared face illuminated by the hologram's blue light. "But when I heard humans had made contact, I knew I had to come." Admiral White leaned forward. "You've encountered humans before." Reed nodded, his expression grim. 3 cycles ago, in the Outer Rim, just one ship. A traitor, they said." He paused, touching his metallic leg. This was the result. The chamber grew quiet. Even General Stone seemed interested now. "It was a simple merchant vessel," Reed continued. "Small, like these ones. We thought it would be easy to acquire their cargo." He looked ashamed at the memory. "I commanded 3 warships back then. Top of the line. The best crews." The hologram still showed the human ships, now surrounded by their mysterious deployments. Reed glanced at it and shook his head. "The human ship sent us a warning. Just one. They said they didn't want violence, but they would defend themselves." Reed's voice grew distant. "We laughed, just like you're all laughing now." Turner, still at his console, spoke up. "What happened, sir?" "Their ship carried what we thought was mining equipment. Simple tools." Reed's hand trembled slightly. "But those tools transformed into combat drones faster than our sensors could track. Hundreds of them. Each one smaller than a rescue pod, but more maneuverable than our best fighters." Lord Commander Blake scoffed. "Drones? Against proper warships. These weren't ordinary drones," Reed snapped. "They moved like they were alive. They predicted our every move. 2 of my ships were disabled before we could even aim our weapons. The 3rd, he gestured to his leg. I barely managed to escape in a pod." "Impossible," General Stone growled. "No one can defeat 3 council warships with 1 vessel." Reed walked to the hologram controls. His fingers moved across the panel, and a new image appeared, a recording. It showed a massive council warship, easily 20 times the size of the human vessel it faced. Then small objects swarmed from the human ship, moving in perfect formation. Seconds later, the council ship's lights went dark. "They didn't kill us," Reed said quietly. "They could have, but they didn't. After disabling our ships, they returned our crews to us, fixed our life support, left us enough power to call for help." He looked around the chamber. Then the human captain transmitted one message. "We prefer trading to fighting. Remember that." Admiral White studied the recording. "And now there are 12 of their ships." "You're not listening," Reed said, frustration clear in his voice. "If one trader could do this, what do you think a military fleet can do? Those objects they just deployed. Look at their formation patterns." The council members turned back to the live hologram. The small objects had arranged themselves into complex, shifting geometric patterns around the human ships. "They're not running," Reed warned. "They're setting up a defense grid. And if you're seeing it, it means they want you to see it. They're giving you the same warning I ignored." General Stone slammed his fist down. "We are the Galactic Council. We do not bow to primitives with clever toys." "Sir," Turner's voice cracked with alarm. "The human fleet is transmitting again." Admiral James's calm voice filled the chamber once more. "We notice your weapons systems powering up. We ask again for peaceful dialogue. Please be aware that any hostile action will be met with appropriate defensive measures. Reed looked at the assembled council members, his eyes moving from face to face. You have a choice now. The same choice I had. But you have something I didn't. You know what they can do. He turned to leave, his metallic leg echoing in the silence. At the door, he paused. Don't underestimate them. It cost me my ship, my crew's trust, and my leg. What will it cost you? The council chamber remained quiet after Reed left, all eyes fixed on the dancing lights of the human defense grid, each member wondering the same thing. What exactly were they facing? Despite Captain Reed's warning, the council made its decision. 50 massive warships emerged from hyperspace, surrounding the small human fleet. Each council warship was the size of a small moon, their hulls gleaming with powerful weapons. Against them, the 12 human vessels looked like insects facing giants. General Stone stood proudly on his flagship's bridge. Look at how tiny they are, he said to his crew. This will be the shortest battle in council history. On the human flagship, Admiral James sat calmly in his command chair. The bridge was quiet, filled only with the soft beeping of instruments and gentle hum of machinery. A holographic display showed the council warships taking position around them. They've surrounded us, sir, reported Lieutenant Gray, her eyes on the tactical display. 50 ships, heavy weapons charging. James nodded, just as expected. Are our friends ready? Yes, sir. All units in position and awaiting your command. The council ships finished their encirclement. Their formation was perfect by traditional standards. A sphere of overwhelming firepower with the human fleet trapped in the center. General Stone's voice boomed across all channels. Attention, human vessels. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. This is your only warning. In response, Admiral James stood up and straightened his uniform. This is Admiral James to all council vessels. We see you've brought quite a fleet to greet 12 small ships. I'm wondering if perhaps you're overreacting. The calm response angered Stone. You dare mock us. We are the Galactic Council. Our smallest ship could crush your entire fleet. Size isn't everything, General, James replied with a smile. But since you seem interested in numbers, perhaps I should introduce you to the rest of our fleet. Stone laughed. What rest? Our scans show only 12 ships. Ah yes, 12 carrier ships. James nodded to Lieutenant Gray. Show them what we mean. Across the battlefield, the thousands of small objects that had been dismissed as debris suddenly lit up. What had appeared to be a random cloud of junk transformed into perfectly organized squadrons of combat drones. Each one was smaller than a council fighter, but glowed with energy readings that made the council sensors scream warnings. Impossible. Stone stumbled back as his tactical display transformed. Where there had been 12 targets, now there were thousands. How did they hide such power signatures? On every council ship, alarms began to sound. The debris field wasn't just alive, it was moving. The drones flowed like liquid metal, forming complex geometric patterns that no organic pilot could maintain. Lieutenant, James said calmly, please demonstrate why humanity prefers smaller, more efficient designs. The drones moved. Each squadron flowed through space with impossible precision, weaving between the massive council ships. Before the council gunners could target them, the drones were already past their firing arcs. Sir, Stone's weapons officer shouted, we can't track them. They're too small and too fast. Stone watched in horror as squadrons of tiny drones attached themselves to his ship's hulls. They weren't attacking. They were simply landing. What are they doing? He demanded. His answer came as ship after ship reported power failures. Weapons went offline. Engines shut down. Communications flickered. Admiral James's voice came through once more. A simple demonstration, General. Each drone carries what we call an electromagnetic pulse generator. Very small, very efficient. They're currently disrupting your power systems without causing any permanent damage. Stone's rage turned to disbelief as his mighty fleet hung powerless in space. The drones had disabled 50 warships in less than 5 minutes, without firing a single shot. "This is impossible," he whispered. "You're supposed to be primitives." "A common mistake," James replied. "You assumed small meant weak, simple meant primitive. But humanity learned long ago that bigger isn't always better. We focused on efficiency, automation, and precision." The human admiral's voice grew serious. "Now, General, shall we discuss peaceful relations? Or would you like to see what our drones can do when they're not being gentle?" From his flagship's bridge, Admiral White watched the display with growing respect. "Size of the fleet never mattered," he muttered. "They could have sent 1 ship or 100. This was never going to be a fight. It was a demonstration." The 12 human ships, still perfectly positioned, continued their steady patrol through the disabled Council fleet. Their drones maintained formation, a silent reminder that technology, like humanity, shouldn't be judged by its size. The Council chamber had never been so quiet. On the main display, footage of their defeated fleet played on repeat. 50 of their most powerful warships, disabled in minutes, now drifted powerless in space. The Council members watched in stunned silence as Admiral James's voice filled the room again. "We're restoring minimal power to your ships now," he announced. "Enough for life support and communications. I trust this demonstrates our capabilities." General Stone, who had been transported back to the Council chamber, stood in shame before his peers. His earlier boasting about crushing the humans seemed like a distant, foolish memory. "How?" Lord Commander Blake finally asked. "How did you hide such advanced technology from our scans?" Admiral James's response carried a hint of amusement. "We didn't hide it. Your scanners saw exactly what was there. You simply didn't understand what you were looking at." The hologram shifted, showing one of the human ships in detail. Its outer hull began to transform, panels sliding away to reveal complex systems underneath. "Each of our ships," James explained, "is what we call a carrier platform. Think of it as a mobile command center for our drone fleet. Small, yes, but size became irrelevant to humanity centuries ago when we mastered miniaturization and artificial intelligence." The Council watched as the ship's interior was revealed layer by layer. What they had dismissed as primitive technology was anything but. Every centimeter of space served multiple purposes. Where Council ships needed massive engine rooms, the human vessels used compact fusion reactors no bigger than a storage crate. "Impossible," Turner whispered from his console. "The energy readings we're getting. They shouldn't be possible from systems that small." Admiral White stepped forward. "Your drones. They moved with impossible coordination. No pilots could achieve such precision." "Correct," James replied. "Each drone is controlled by an advanced AI system. They think and react millions of times faster than organic pilots. But more importantly, they work together as a single networked intelligence." As if to demonstrate, the drones around the disabled Council fleet began to move. They flowed like water, forming complex three-dimensional patterns that shifted and changed with fluid grace. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Watch closely," James said. The Council members gasped as each drone suddenly split into 2 smaller units, then 4, then 8. What had been thousands of drones became millions in seconds. "Self-replicating nanotechnology," James explained. "Each drone carries the materials and programming to create copies of itself. We could have an entire fleet in hours if needed." Captain Reed, who had remained silent until now, stepped forward. "This is what I tried to warn you about. The ship I encountered. It wasn't even a military vessel, just a trader protecting itself." "Indeed," James confirmed. "That trader carried only our most basic defensive systems. What you're seeing now is our actual military technology, though still just a fraction of our capabilities." The Council members exchanged nervous glances. If this was just a fraction. "The drones you see," James continued, "are our smallest units. Each carrier also contains larger combat platforms, if needed. Would you like to see them?" No. Several council members shouted at once. Admiral White raised his hand. Admiral James, you've made your point. Clearly, we were wrong to judge your civilization by the size of your ships. But I have one question. If you're this advanced, why come to us at all? Why seek relations with the Council? There was a pause before James answered. Because humanity believes in peace through understanding. Yes, we could have arrived with a full battle fleet. We could have demanded membership in your council. Instead, we came with a small diplomatic force, hoping to establish peaceful contact. He let that sink in before continuing. The demonstration you witnessed was regrettable but necessary. We hoped to avoid conflict by showing restraint, but your aggressive response forced us to reveal more than we planned. Still, notice that not a single council citizen was harmed. That was by design. The chamber fell silent again as the council members processed this information. Their entire understanding of technological superiority, based on size and visible power, had been upended in a single day. Admiral White turned to his fellow council members. I suggest we accept their offer of peaceful relations. Immediately. Looking at the swarm of drones still elegantly dancing through space, not a single council member disagreed. The mood in the council chamber shifted dramatically when Admiral James requested permission to come aboard. After a brief discussion, they agreed to meet the human commander face to face. A small shuttle departed from the human flagship. Unlike the sleek council transport vessels, it was barely larger than a ground vehicle. General Stone couldn't help but smirk at its size. Old habits died hard. Still judging by size, General, Captain Reed asked quietly. Even after everything we've seen. The shuttle landed with perfect precision in the council's main docking bay. As the door opened, the gathered council members held their breath, expecting to see some form of advanced combat armor or impressive military uniform. Instead, Admiral James stepped out wearing a simple blue uniform with minimal decorations. He was shorter than most council members and carried no visible weapons. Behind him walked Lieutenant Gray, carrying only a small datapad. Greetings, James said warmly. Thank you for agreeing to meet in person. Lord Commander Blake studied the human with obvious confusion. You came without guards, without protection. James smiled. Who says I came without protection? As if responding to his words, the air around him shimmered slightly. Turner, monitoring from his console, suddenly gasped. Sir, I'm detecting thousands of microscopic drones around the Admiral. They're everywhere. Personal defense swarm, James explained casually. Each drone is smaller than a grain of sand. Together, they form an invisible shield stronger than any armor. But don't worry, they're purely defensive. Admiral White stepped forward. You continue to surprise us, Admiral. But I must ask, why reveal all this technology to us? Surely keeping these capabilities secret would be more advantageous. James walked to the center of the chamber, his footsteps echoing. Actually, we haven't revealed much at all. What you've seen is, as I said before, a fraction of our capabilities. We're showing you enough to establish respect, not to reveal our true military strength. The chamber grew quiet at this statement. For instance, James continued, gesturing to Lieutenant Gray. She tapped her data pad, and a new hologram appeared. This is one of our actual military fleets. The council members stared in shock. The image showed thousands of ships, each one different from the next. Some were as small as the vessels they'd seen today, others large enough to rival council warships. But it was their formation that drew gasps. They moved together like a living organism, shifting and adapting in perfect harmony. Impossible, General Stone whispered. No fleet can coordinate like that. Not with organic pilots, no, James agreed. But every human ship is linked to a central AI network. They think and act as one. The ships you saw today were operating independently. This, he gestured to the hologram, is how we fight when we need to. Captain Reed stepped forward. The traitor I encountered, It wasn't just being merciful when it spared us, was it? It was following protocol. Correct. James nodded. All human vessels are programmed to use minimal force. Lethal action is always our last resort. We believe true strength lies in the ability to win without destruction. Lieutenant Gray spoke for the first time. The Council's attack today actually helped us. It let us demonstrate our technology in a controlled way, without revealing our full capabilities. Admiral White's eyes widened with understanding. You planned this. All of it. The small fleet, the simple-looking ships, even the way you let us surround you. James smiled again. We believed the Council would react exactly as it did, with dismissal, then aggression, then understanding. It's a pattern we've seen before. We chose to use it to create a controlled first contact scenario. But why? Lord Commander Blake asked. Why not simply arrive in force and demand respect? Because, James replied, looking around the chamber, humanity has learned that lasting peace comes from mutual understanding, not fear. Yes, we could have arrived with our main fleet. Instead, we chose to give you the chance to learn about us gradually. He turned to face General Stone. Your attack today taught the Council about human military capability. Now, shall we discuss what humans can offer as allies instead of opponents? The Council members looked at each other, then at the hologram of the vast human fleet. The choice was clear. The Council could have humanity as a powerful friend or a terrifying enemy. Admiral White spoke for them all. Admiral James, I believe it's time we discussed that peace treaty you mentioned. As peace talks began, Admiral James suggested something unexpected. Before we proceed with formal negotiations, I'd like to show you exactly what you're allying with. Lieutenant Gray, begin the demonstration. The Council chamber's main viewing window suddenly transformed into a massive display screen. Every member present could see both their disabled fleet and the 12 human ships clearly. Watch carefully, James said softly. Lieutenant. Gray touched her datapad. The 12 human ships began to change. Their outer hulls shifted like liquid metal, panels sliding away to reveal hidden compartments. What had appeared to be simple vessels now bristled with advanced technology. These are our ship's true forms, James explained. The simple exterior was camouflage. Turner's console erupted with alerts. Sir, energy readings they're off the scale. Each ship is producing more power than our entire fleet combined. The transformation continued. Each human vessel split open like a flower blooming, revealing intricate machinery within. The millions of small drones rushed back to their parent ships, merging with them to form new structures. Molecular reconstruction, James explained, noting the Council members' amazed expressions. Every drone can combine with others to create larger, more complex systems. Before their eyes, the 12 small ships transformed into something entirely different. Where there had been simple vessels, now floated 12 massive platforms, each one a technological marvel that made Council ships look primitive in comparison. General Stone found his voice first. What are they? Command nodes, James replied. Each one capable of controlling a sphere of space larger than your entire territory. The simple ships you saw, that was just their travel configuration. As if to demonstrate, one of the transformed vessels released a pulse of energy. A holographic grid appeared, covering thousands of kilometers of space. Within seconds, it had mapped and analyzed every object in range. Complete strategic control, Lieutenant Gray explained. These nodes can detect, track, and if necessary, disable any vessel, weapon, or technology within their operational range. Admiral White stepped closer to the window. And you had this capability the entire time, even when we surrounded you. Of course, James nodded. We could have disabled your fleet the moment it arrived. But that wouldn't have served our purpose. To demonstrate, one of the command nodes released a swarm of new drones, different from the ones they'd seen before. These were larger, more complex. They approached the disabled Council ships and began repairing them, restoring power systems, and fixing damage. Repair drones, James explained. They can fix nearly any technological damage. We believe in helping, not destroying. Captain Reed watched the repairs with understanding dawning on his face. The trader ship that disabled my fleet. It had this capability too, didn't it? It could have destroyed us at any time. All human ships carry similar systems, James confirmed. Though military vessels like these have more advanced versions, what you're seeing now is our standard peacekeeping configuration. Lord Commander Blake looked troubled. Standard configuration? You mean these aren't even warships? James smiled. No, these are diplomatic vessels, designed for first contact scenarios and peaceful missions. Would you like to see what an actual human warship looks like? No. Several council members shouted at once, causing James to chuckle. The demonstration continued as the command nodes began working in perfect synchronization. They created a massive holographic display showing the known galaxy, with detailed information about every star system, planet, and space anomaly. This is what we offer as allies, James said. Not just military protection, but knowledge, technology, understanding of the universe that goes far beyond weapons and ships. The council members watched as the display zoomed in on their own territory, showing details about their worlds that even they didn't know. All this, Admiral White said slowly, from just 12 ships. 12 diplomatic ships, James corrected. Imagine what we could accomplish together as allies instead of potential enemies. The message was clear. Humanity hadn't come to conquer or intimidate. They had come to help, to share knowledge, to build something greater than military power. Lieutenant Gray's data pad beeped softly. Sir, the repair drones have finished restoring the council fleet. James turned to the council members. Now then, shall we discuss that alliance properly? Looking at the transformed human vessels, now revealed as technological marvels beyond their understanding, not a single council member had any doubt about their answer. 1 month after the historic first contact, the council chamber looked very different. Holographic displays showing human technology filled the room, and council members eagerly studied data about Earth's history. The same leaders who had laughed at the tiny fleet now sat in amazed silence as they learned about humanity's journey to the stars. Admiral James stood at the center of the chamber, concluding his presentation. And that's how humanity learned that bigger isn't always better. Our focus on efficiency and miniaturization began during our early space age, when we had to solve problems with limited resources. General Stone, who had become one of the strongest supporters of the human alliance, raised his hand. But I still don't understand. Why did humans choose to make everything so small? James smiled. Necessity. Earth has limited resources compared to many of your worlds. We couldn't build massive ships like yours, so we had to think differently. We focused on making things smaller, smarter, and more efficient. Lieutenant Gray displayed a new hologram showing Earth. Our planet taught us to adapt. When we faced energy problems, we developed microfusion. When space debris threatened our satellites, we created the first cleaning drones. Every challenge made us more innovative. Admiral White nodded in understanding. You turned your limitations into advantages. Exactly, James agreed. While other species built bigger ships, we built smarter ones. While they focused on powerful weapons, we developed precision tools that could disable without destroying. Captain Reed, now serving as the official liaison between humans and the Council, stepped forward. I've been studying human history. Their wars taught them that victory doesn't always go to the largest army. The hologram shifted to show various human achievements through history. Small drones cleaning oceans, tiny machines repairing damaged ecosystems, microscopic robots healing diseases. This is why we came with small ships, James explained. We wanted to show the Council a different way of thinking. Size isn't power. True strength lies in innovation, efficiency, and wisdom. Lord Commander Blake spoke up. The trade agreements we've signed this month, they're already changing everything. Human microtechnology has solved problems we've struggled with for centuries. It was true. In just 1 month, human technology had transformed Council space. Their repair drones had fixed aging infrastructure. Their cleaning swarms had cleared space debris from busy trading routes. Their medical nanites had cured diseases that had plagued Council worlds for generations. And to think, Turner said from his console, we almost started a war because we thought they were primitive. James walked to the main window, looking out at the stars. Humanity learned long ago that the most dangerous assumption is thinking you're superior just because something looks weak. The chamber grew quiet as everyone reflected on this wisdom. The Council had existed for thousands of years, believing bigger meant better. In one day, 12 small ships had changed that forever. The treaty is ready for final approval, Lieutenant Gray announced, displaying the document. Admiral White read the title aloud. Treaty of Mutual Understanding and Technological Exchange between the Galactic Council and Humanity. Just then, a new alert appeared on the main display. A massive fleet had just appeared at the edge of Council space. But instead of panic, the Council members smiled. They now recognized the human ships that served as peacekeepers in their space. Right on schedule, James nodded. The first joint Human Council Defense Fleet. Small ships and large ones, working together. The best of both our civilizations. The Council members watched as the new fleet took formation. Massive Council warships protected by swarms of human drones. Large space stations surrounded by tiny repair units. Two different approaches to technology, complementing each other perfectly. General Stone turned to James. You knew this would happen, didn't you? From the moment your 12 ships entered our space. James smiled. We hoped. Humanity believes that true progress comes when different ideas work together. We didn't come to replace your technology. We came to enhance it. As the combined fleet patrolled Council space, it stood as a symbol of this new partnership. The Council had learned a valuable lesson. Never judge by size alone. For in the vast expanse of space, it wasn't the biggest fleet that won. It was the smartest one. And somewhere in the chamber, Captain Reed smiled, touching his healed leg, now repaired by human nanites, and wondered what other marvels this alliance would bring to the galaxy.